What's up, y'all? Y'all are listening to Living Corporate's flagship podcast. If you didn't know, Living Corporate helps organizations build employee engagement and market trust through data analytics and data transformation, our e-learning platform, and brand marketing storytelling. We're so excited for you to be here today. The conversation you're about to hear is going to connect the dots between employee experience and go-to-market effectiveness. If you're not ready, get ready. Here we go. Shanta Eaden, what's going on?
What's up, Zach? Good to talk to you, my friend.
Hey, it's good to talk to you as well. It's funny, like, you know, we connected through Genesis Works Houston, right? Because we're both on the board there of a nonprofit that helps to connect historically marginalized teens, accelerate their careers through incredible opportunities, internships at the high school level. And I just recall just observing from afar for a second, you know what I'm saying? I try to, like, I'm a fairly sociable person, but I also want to make sure I don't want to be like just too much, you know what I mean? So I waited, observed, saw what you were doing, the work that you were leading. You know, there's not many of us in any one particular place. So I was like, okay, well, I'm confident whatever she's doing, she's probably doing it. And then I learned more again from afar about, you know, your company and your background. And so I'm just excited and thankful that we've been able to not only get to know one another on the board of Genesis Works Houston, but also just gotten to know one another outside of that. And so, you know, for those who don't know, you know, we're going to put your information and stuff in the show notes. But for those who don't know, like, who is Shanta Eaden?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. I mean, I'm a mom and a wife first. And I decided to really embark on this work just because I wanted to be able to make a difference in the workplace and the workplace culture. And so I like to say this is my third gig. Spent my first half of the career in banking and finance operations, mergers, acquisitions. And that's when I got into project and change management and just realized how much organizations have these major change initiatives that they need to get completed, but oftentimes don't have the resources. So even leaving that industry, going into oil and gas, and then going into in an environment where I was able to see it firsthand, how companies are struggling with transformation work, change work, the D&I work. And it's typically because they just don't have the resources. And I know we'll talk more about the labor market, but that's why I decided to do Leader's Edge and fractional leadership in, I think, a different way.
And so, and I do want to talk about this concept of fractional leadership, but before that, why the name Leader's Edge?
I like to say it's just leadership. It is just leadership, you know, and leadership is not by a title, but it's about how we show up. And so how do we equip and activate leaders in all the different areas and realms and the roles that they play so that they can affect change and make an impact. That's how I came up with it. And it's interesting because I actually came up with that name 10 years ago before I even dreamed about consulting, because I was helping people with their resumes and interview preps, and trying to get into the labor market, the workforce, and that God just gave me that name. And so when I decided to actually create a real business around it, I was like, it still fits.
You mentioned a lot, right, in terms of like HR, like traditional HR, change management, diversity, equity, and inclusion work, leadership development, coaching. And I mean, one, like that, first of all, that sounds like a lot to deliver at one place, let alone having a consulting firm that's delivering it at like across multiple organizations. So help me understand the fractional leadership model and like what that really entails and how that works in the context of what you do.
Yes. Yep. So think about, I think about fractional leadership in the a way that, again, companies have major initiatives, could be teams, it could be initiatives, and their leadership teams are tapped out, but they need to have somebody who can work across functions, across the organization that has the leadership expertise. And so, but they don't need them full time. They need them to be focused in this area for this particular time, over a course of several months. And so being able to offer that type of specific focus around whatever that initiative is that is typically going to bring the company more value, bring the shareholders more value, have a significant ROI. But being able to provide that flexible leadership around those initiatives without the full-time expense of an actual leader or executive to come into those teams and without the long-term commitment of that salary. So it just allows them to get more done at a reduced cost, and have more access to the leadership capabilities that they need to drive the major change initiatives.
I think that cost part is so understated as a part of the value proposition, right? Because so there's the cost of headcount, like there's the raw cost of my salary, benefits,
and all the benefits around it. That's right.
Like so if I'm paying, let's say I bring in like a CHRO, right? And let's say I'm paying that CHRO, and let's say I'm a mid market energy company, I might pay that CHRO like $275 base, right? And base.
Yes.
Then I might bonus them out at like 30%, something like that.
Yep.
Then I might give them some type of sign-on bonus, right? We hadn't even started talking about all the benefits yet. Stock options, benefit selections, 401,
exactly,
insurance, right? So typically that person that you're bringing in at that 275, 250, 275, 300, their total cost might be something like $600,000-$700,000.
Exactly.
Right. And then, so that's just like your cost. Like that's the cost. Those are the quantifiable costs. But then let's talk about onboarding and ongoing training and alignment, right? So the time spent to cycle them up.
Yep.
Just for you to maybe get the output you're looking for.
In 12 months, maybe.
In 12, maybe 18 months.
18 months. Exactly.
Shanta, this is why, I'm going to be honest, like this is why me and you, we be, man, come on, dog, because you get it. And like, but you're 100% right. And so like, I just think that value proposition is just really understated because I think the other part, let me put my pessimistic hat on. The other part of it is, so let's say then on the other side, you bring in a fractional leader who you're bringing in at a fraction of those costs, like a genuine fraction of those costs. Well, even if they don't get you the fractionally don't give you exactly what you want, you've still saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. And you figured out what you don't need in a much shorter time. So, right. Hey, it took me 18 months and $700,000+ to not get what I wanted, or it took me,
that is so true.
It took me 100-some thousand.
The data. The data guy. Yeah, exactly. You went right to the numbers. And I think the other thing that's, and you could do the fractional work at different levels, because I have dear friends that operate just at the C level, the CHRO, CFO, fractional work. And that value proposition is key for them and their clients. But what I like to do is work with C-level folks that, again, can't staff their teams up quickly, but they can hire me as a fractional leader on their teams. And because I've already done that type of work, I ramp up quickly. I don't I'm not concerned with the politics of the organization, right? I provide them with the objective expertise in order to really help them accelerate their impact. So the folks that me and my team typically work with, are we report into the CHRO. On the diversity side, we report into the chief diversity officer. Again, especially those teams, because those teams don't typically have large groups, but they need someone with the leadership capability to be able to come in and drive the change in systems, processes, leadership development, all of those things they can't do alone, right? And then we help them scale up their teams. I've also worked with chief sustainability officers, again, typically small teams, not a lot of resources, not a big budget, but again, we can accelerate their impact by coming in as a fractional leader.
I want to talk a little bit about, how it is you deliver the work you do, because I think that, okay, so I'm going to age myself a little bit, right? So I graduated from the University of Houston in 2011. I graduated a year early. And I feel like when I graduated and got into the world of work, a lot of the consulting and things that I saw and or participated in or led, right, as a consultant, a lot of it was like personality driven. So it was like, hey, we're going to do a workshop. Hey, I'm going to sit down and we're going to sit down and talk for like 30 minutes. And we're going to do this kind of qualitative thing. It seems to me more and more as technology has increased, improved, as well as frankly, like pressures to deliver quantifiable results have increased. And as organizations have just continued to accelerate, right? Even just in the last 13, 14 years, it just the cycles have continued. They've accelerated. They've spun up. There seems to be much more like tech involved, right? Like programs, platforms. Talk to me about the tools that you use to deliver against the services you provide.
Yeah. So a couple things, and it depends on the engagement too, because many times I basically come in and I'm embedded into the team. I get a network ID from the company, oftentimes have an office there, and I use the resources that they have, which is great. Also, I believe in strategy work, so setting the groundwork around strategy first, and then a multi-year roadmap. And then the difference between a fractional leader and an independent consultant oftentimes is we actually stay on board to help them execute on those strategies. So we won't just hand you a plan. We have you execute on them in a practical way that fit for purpose for your culture. On the other hand, if we don't have that, then I'm again project manager at heart. So we use project management tools to help again really solidify the roadmap and initiatives and to drive execution. And then depending on the type of other services, especially around the strategy work, this is, Zach, while I was really excited to partner with you on your data insights, is when we do our assessment and really understand the organization, to be able to partner with someone who can help us understand that data and what it's telling us, so that again we can make informed decisions about our actions moving forward. That's key. So working with collaborative partners like yourself and your team has been really instrumental for us.
First of all, thank you for that. It's been incredible working with you and your team as well with Leaders Edge Consulting. I would say I get excited about the role that Living Corporate plays. I think it's so interesting because we started off as like a singular podcast, and a lot of people who know us just through marketing, as digital content, they know us from our podcast, but we continue to show and demonstrate the fact that, hey, like that's one element, the brand storytelling and connection. Even this right here, this webinar, it's digital media, but we have other things that we're doing. One of those being data analytics and insight. And so I get excited about the prospect of supporting organizations like yours to help ingest large amounts of quantitative and qualitative data and then coming back with some outputs, right? So not talking about any of your projects specifically, of course. I think about, like clients, we have clients who have large unstructured survey data, right? And they're like, hey, we got all this feedback, right? So to give us any feedback on the open text survey portion of their survey, they get paragraphs and paragraphs of information.
Yes.
Okay, what do I do with all this information, right? We have our own proprietary tools where we can ingest your survey, and then we can come back to you, give you the themes, the so what, the summary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in a very accelerated way, right? Like this is not us. This is not taking weeks and weeks of time. We're giving a fairly quick turnaround. But not only that, we're willing to be that consultative partner and work with you to help you understand, hey, here's what these outputs are, here's why they are what they are, and then helping to be that partner along the way, right? We don't want to be, what's that word, Shanta? We don't want to be like this hands off, like, all right, here's your report, thank you for the money, right?
Yep. I think too, what's the differentiator of living corporate in this space too, is that for companies like myself that are small businesses, that we don't want to operate in a space that, that for me, I don't want to operate in a space that doesn't give me full joy. And so having a trusted partner, like to say, we want to be able to offer this data analytics to a client, but we don't want to take on that additional responsibility, but we want to partner with you hand in hand through this journey. And I think the other thing that clients appreciate with that is their teams, again, even their data analytics teams are tapped out, right? And so they don't have the resources or the technology like you do to be able to look at the data objectively and then be able to provide that insights. We didn't even talk, I don't even think we're going to talk about burnout, but teams are so lean within these organizations. They don't have time to actually slow down and do the work that's needed to actually drive the actual change that they're trying to see and get benefit from. And so to have people that, and this is kind of how I operate too, is that we have fractional leaders, but also collaborative partners that operate in their genius that help us really deliver for our clients.
So a couple things, I believe in giving folks flowers. I'll say this, like as a quick aside, fourth wall break, behind the curtain thing. What I love about working with people like you, Shanta, is you understand the collaborative big picture. To your point about operating in your genius, I think it's really tempting to operate from a mindset of scarcity and say, well, what do? You do data analytics and you can like ingest it. All right, how did you do that? Okay, I think I can do that myself, right? In the spirit of, I'm going to just get as much as I can, not recognizing and realizing, first of all, there's plenty enough to work collaboratively and share. But on top of that, when you try to force and operate outside of your realm of genius, not only do you waste time, you waste money, but you also accelerate your own burnout. And I agree, we probably should do another webinar on burnout. But but you accelerate your own, because all of us only have so much runway to go, right? And so it's like, why wasting your energy and time trying to pick up a whole new thing? Right. So I love that attitude. And like, those are the type of clients and partners, collaborative partners that Living Corporate loves working with, because we all recognize where we're at. Living Corporate really isn't looking to be like that ongoing boots on the ground execution partner for somebody. Right. We want to help be that engine behind to give you the insights. Yes, we're going to give you those recommendations, and we're going to be consultative in that. But as it pertains to like, hey, you need to create a program, or you need to deliver ongoing leadership consulting and coaching, or you need to build up different like in-person training. Nah, we're not really interested in that. Like, that's just not our model. That's not our zone of genius or passion. There's plenty of organizations. Well, not plenty. There's a handful of organizations, Leaders Edge Consulting being one of them, that does that work really, really well. So we'd much rather lift as we climb, point to the people that can help us, and we work collaboratively. Something else you said, though, and I think this is really also understated, that teams are so stretched right now. And data analytics teams, while a lot of these organizations, most of these billion-dollar organizations have analytics teams. But I'm going to tell you something, Shanta. We have a lot of conversations with folks like off mic, quote unquote, like not on the podcast that people see, our podcast people see, where they're like, hey, we'll show a demo of our visualizations and things of that nature. And they haven't seen that level of work before, or they'll say, man, we have a team, but they're busy working on projection. They're working on things from our CFO. They're working on whatever the case is. They don't have the time to work on, nor do we have the capacity to connect sentiment survey data with employee experience data, with customer experience data, with and build out these multi-year projections on that type of stuff. We're not even thinking like that because our team is small, or hey, this person just got laid off. This person just quit, and we don't plan on even replacing them.
Yeah, listen, they are operating within the confines of their system.
Come on,
and it is a ship that runs within that. But when they have, again, these major change initiatives that they need to have completed, this is why fractional leadership or or partners that they could trust is important. Because we're like the Navy SEALs team. We swoop in, we help you define the strategy, we determine what's needed, we work with data and other partners to help us really create a strategy and roadmap that needs to get done. And then for us, we're the execution engine. We're going to stay on board until you either build capacity or capability in-house and be able to take it on and move on with with the work that you need to do. One of the so that I get kind of excited about that, you can tell.
No, I mean, rightfully so. It's interesting too, because, and I do want to talk a little bit about how, like, because I would say Leaders Edge and Living Corporate, we've collaborated in like two major ways. Like, one was the data analytics, but then also we work together on to help support Leadership Edge's ERG strategy, right, and the work that y'all do. But I think before we even get there, I just want to honor what you just said about, as organizations continue to ramp up, and like, I mean, again, I don't know, like, until something systemically changes, I don't think we're going to see a major shift in this very high speed, high churn and burn working environment, right? I mean, there are very few organizations right now that I've seen where the pedal is not all the way to the metal, right? And so, but in that, I think what is unappreciated is most people are not coming from environments where they're used to working that way. So even though organizations are going to continue to accelerate and try to work like that, I do believe organizations are going to make more mistakes and are going to need more targeted support and solutions like you're talking about. Yeah. Like, I think ironically, organizations, like, they're speeding up to speed up, but they're speeding up and in some ways they're slowing down, right?
Yeah, no, yep, I agree. And I think one of the things I've heard from my clients too, I think was, it relieves them to have a partner or folks that can come and help them execute on all the things that they need to get done, really, to make a difference. And imagine, and I remember this being in corporate too, but imagine you have somebody that, again, you don't have the weight of the full burden of the cause, but you have somebody you can count on to help you execute on the major strategies that you have.
100%.
Just,
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I know for me, we're a small, boutique firm, and I have no desire to be this large firm. I really want to be, again, a partner that people can count on, and that means they know me, I know them, they know the team, and we're with them.
So there's another part, I think, and again, I'm not no psychologist, so let's be clear, but I think about, like, from a psychological perspective, part of also bringing on, like, a new full-time talent is okay, hey, are you with us? Are you not? Hey, let's make sure you still feel like you belong. Let's make sure you feel comfortable that you're here for long-term success, because we did invest all this money. So, we're incented to keep you. If we spent $700,000 whatever on you, we're incented for you to be here for at least 3 to 4 years, right? So let's make sure we do that. So there's an emotional labor element to managing talent, full-time talent. But when you talk about fractional leadership, you talk about it's and like that level of support. It's, hey, you know what it is, and I know what it is. Yep.
Yep.
I ain't trying to work here. You ain't trying to pay me to work
Exactly.
here. So I'm
Exactly.
gonna come. I'm gonna do my job and I'm gonna skate, right? Or hey, like, like it goes both ways, and there's no problem, right? In terms of like,
Just no,
it's no
exactly.
problem,
Exactly. And I think that just and the last thing I'll say to that is that, in that space, we're their sounding board, we're their coach, we're helping them execute. We're making them that we making the for me, again working with the C level, we make the C level look good because we're getting this stuff done. And frankly, we don't care about the credit as long as the work is getting
right?
done and they can see us as a trusted partner. And because of that, we either, typically our engagements are 12 months or so, but we have many of our clients that call us back to do other engagements and expanded things. Okay, now we've implemented this, and again, my project in change management, I'm always doing change management
Mm-hmm.
throughout, but then we want to go deeper in this level. We want to, infiltrate in this other group and support them with whatever that growth work is. So it's a win. It's a win-win situation.
Um, I, I'm right there with you. Look, we're about halfway through. I don't want to run out of time. So
Yes.
so
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about Leaders Edge Consulting and the ERG work that y'all are doing. Like, what does that look like? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
what was the origin of that? What was the impetus to create that? And and then maybe you talk a little bit about how we got connected on that, and then maybe we can
Yeah.
unpack it further.
That's so again, when I decided to start Leaders Edge, it was um, we wanted to drive these major change. And for me, D&I is a major change initiative within the organization. It's not just training. Um, it's really about strategy and execution of that strategy, systems and processes and leadership development. And so what I found was that, after I had worked in corporate in the D&I space for a while, and then I went into a small startup, it was and talking to companies across industries, it was always the same thing where they don't have the teams or the resources or capacity to do it. So that I would say probably now I was pretty heavy on my DNI clients, but now I'm probably 50-50 with DNI and then non-DNI work. But as a part of the DNI strategy, always ERGs are a part of the strategy. And in my former life, I also used to be not just a DNI leader, but I had been an ERG leader. And what I know what it means to take on the role to be an ERG leader. And it does not matter that you are a rock star in your daily job. The dynamics are different when you become an ERG leader. And so what I wanted to do is provide dedicated support for ERG leadership, because it's just leadership, right? Dedicated support for ERG leaders to help equip them for their roles to be the most effective. And again, this is an area where companies don't invest um, in really taking care of their ERG leaders and provide them with leadership development. So we decided to create leadership development programs specifically around just for those roles. And this should be kind of piloted, almost like a membership base. And this is when I reached out to you last year when I thought about doing this, where we give these companies so many hours of leadership development for their ERG leaders, group coaching, and then we give them access to our what we call our e-learning platform that we collaborated with Living Corporate about, because one of the challenges that they have also is how do you bring meaningful content to the membership without the work, y'all, when you're doing like events or trying to get a big community together, the logistics around it and all of that. So that's why we decided to go with this e-learning platform, because this has a ton of content and how companies are using it. The ERG leaders may host lunch and learns, coffee chats around specific topics, have them, they listen to the playlist or to the topic that on the platform, and then they can have focus group discussions around it. And so, again, just a way to provide meaningful content and resources to those ERG leaders. And it's a really lightweight exercise or effort to get it set up. So that's why we decided to do that. So when we think about the ERG membership that we talked about, so not only do they get the facilitated learning and development for their ERG leaders and the e-learning platform, we actually have quarterly peer exchanges. And our clients have said that's probably the most beneficial too for them, where they get connected to ERG leaders across Houston. And actually now we have ERG leaders outside of Houston and Texas as well. And they get a chance to talk about best practice sharing and connect with people and actually become really good friends and network with them long term. And so we do that quarterly. And in October 23rd, we actually have our signature annual event of ERG Leadership Symposium here in Houston. It's an all-day event. We're having Denise Hamilton as our guest speaker. We're having a Dare to Lead facilitator, Joni Goodman, to bring Brene Brown's concepts in, a wellness aspect with Dr. Gunner. So it's going to be a major event. And last year we had over 70 leaders here in Houston, and we're planning for an even bigger group. So really excited about that.
And listen, I wanted just to share the screen so folks can kind of see it. And I also want to say, I believe it was a brilliant strategy. Obviously, I'm biased. You're working with Living Corp, okay? But I think it was a brilliant strategy to scale ERG support through some type of membership motion, right? And I also think that when you think about where we're at in the world of work, irrespective of what the talking heads are saying, irrespective of like these of quote unquote DEI being under attack, blah, 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 employees are still coming to work looking for support. They're looking to be treated
Absolutely.
with respect. They're looking to be seen and heard and respected for who they are in the world of work. And I also believe that there is a good number of employees, like a large percentage of employees who may be a part of the majority who still want to do right by other employees and would like to understand how they could show up and be their best selves as leaders. And so the idea of the platform that we've built at Living Corporate is, we have another client, Capgemini, who and salute to Janet Pope, because she really did coin this phrase. It's like Spotify for DEI is how she looks at this, right? And I was like, dang, I didn't think about that. The Spotify, please I don't want no smoke. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, okay. Like, relax. All right. Look, this is, come on. And salute. But it's the idea is when we took our entire podcast library and, it's about 1,000 plus interviews with like executives, activists, entrepreneurs, elected officials, educators, authors, and we push them, all these podcasts, through our AI engine, right, that we built. And it took these conversations and then it turned them into e-learning modules, right? And so each of these conversations, again, we've talked to folks like Preston Mitchum, Nicole Hannah-Jones, Dr. Jason Johnson, W. Kamal Bell, the list goes on and on. April Ryan, Lovey Ajayi. Like, we've talked to all these people, and then those are like kind of like those are maybe influencer names or celebrity names or author names that you may know. But we've also talked to like senior executives, all these folks, and then we said, okay, what is this conversation about? What actions can leaders take based on this content? And then what are some discussion questions? And so we've essentially operationalized these discussions that were a podcast so that you can actually do something with them. People already are using podcasting as a learning modality. So it wasn't really hard for us to then like take that additional step and just say, okay, how do we turn this into something actionable? And yes, to your point, I get excited because we have the ability to then make different playlists for different topics and ideas. And so, like, to your point, Shanta, like, the learning platform, it's great for ERG DEI initiatives. We also have other clients who have used this and are using this for their leadership development. right? Because there's a ton of
Yeah.
content in here on just being an inclusive leader. There's tons of content on here about early career management. There's tons of content in here about wellness. And so you can make playlists, and just like you make a playlist on Spotify or Apple or wherever, and then you take that to your cookout or your bat mitzvah or whatever your event is, you can do the same thing here. Take a playlist, export it, and then take and embed that in your organization's, intranet. So that way, because so often, Shante, like, I don't know if you heard this, but like, we've gotten feedback. It's like, hey, we struggle with our employees logging into another platform to go to training, right? So like, so then why don't we just bring the content to you where you can embed this content within whatever your environment is? That way your employees have one less excuse, right? There's another client. I don't want to name it because we're going to do a webinar with them separate, but that's what they did. As opposed to like having people log in, they just said, you know what, we're going to build our own intranet page. We're going to, we're going to put the playlist here, and then we're going to track activity on this page because we know that we can control this. This is our environment, right? So,
I love that. It goes back to operating within the systems that you have and being really flexible and adaptable to the client to give them exactly what they need.
When you talk about this platform, like, and you think, and to your point about easy setup, like talk to us more about that. And I'm gonna stop sharing. And folks want to learn more. We're gonna have an interest form at the end of this, and we'll put that in the links and things of that nature. But I just want folks to kind of see it a bit because the data part is a little more difficult to share in terms of we don't want to expose anybody's information. But this right here is fairly, it's not exposing anything. So I figured we could at least share this screen. And if folks want demos, if they can. But talk to us a little bit more about when you talked about setup and kind of ease, like what was that like for you? What was that experience for you?
So the experience with the clients and just once we got access to it, it was really easy to share with them. And again, it was always, they had not been exposed to a tool, a technology that can make it so easy for them to do something. Honestly, it's like, ERG leaders and D&I leaders are oftentimes just so resource constrained, even when they want to do something for their organization. The effort is just, it sometimes outweighs, and then things just get delayed and we don't get a chance to get things completed. But being able to offer them a tool out of the box to say, not only do you have an opportunity for facilitated learning, you have digital learning options as well, right? And so that was really, I think, the differentiator for us going into these organizations and supporting the pieces of their strategy around it. And I think the other thing is, again, on the ERG space, if anybody who's ever managed ERGs know, not just as an ERG leader, but if you're a DI office that's providing the oversight of all of your ERGs, it's hard. And so any way we can make that easier for them and bring the resources to them to make it easier to bring it back to their workforce, the better. And that's always been the feedback, is this is just super easy to use regardless of the topic. We just type in inclusive leadership, allyship. That's a big one. Generational inclusion, right? So then we can facilitate discussions on that. And then you have a digital platform. You can go in and do some more learning, deeper learning on it.
What I love about this also is, and I've said this I've shared this with people too, is I don't know if there's another platform that has the depth of content we have on employee experience at the intersection of lived identity, right? But then on top of that, I pride myself, and Living Corporate prides itself on being adaptive and responsive. So let's say you came back and said, hey, Zach, we have a client and they're looking at our modules and like they like the platform and everything. It's cool, but there's not enough content on like indigenous experiences and supporting indigenous employees. Like where is that in this platform? I'll come back and say, hey, we don't really have a lot of that content, but we can be that partner in creating that content and uploading it to the platform for you. So like very rarely in all the discussions I've had with people who are working with like a LinkedIn Learning or a whatever your tool is, can you go to that vendor and say,
Exactly.
I need 3 modules on X. And they go, okay, well, maybe one day we'll have it. We'll live in corporate. We'll say, great, give us X amount of time, give us your parameters. We're going to go build that for you and then upload it for you. And then we're going to have a conversation, let you know when it's there. Right. We'll even build the playlist for you. Right. And we have clients that do that. And so I get excited about, to your point about Leaders Edge Consulting being boutique. Living Corporate is also boutique. Like we don't.
That's why I'm smiling. I'm like, this is my jam. It's like this is because it's fit for purpose to really make a targeted impact. And we don't have, thankfully we don't have to worry about kind of the nuances of some of these larger organizations that can't give clients exactly what they need, right, in order to be able for them to make an impact. Because for me, and I'm sure this is for you too, like that's the why. That's the why we do this work.
That's the why.
So we're not going to create barriers to help us make that impact. We're going to try to find ways to be more agile and nimble to be able to.
I love it. Now look, we've talked a lot about our journey this year, excited about what we've been able to do together. And I get really excited about what we're going to continue to be able to do together as I think about 2025. Because honestly, Shanta, we're going to look up. It's going to be January. Okay. It's going to be January. So let's talk a little bit about 2025, right? Like, and just, touching our respective crystal balls here. What do you see the future of fractional leadership being, like this model being, in the context of work being in the state of constant flux?
Mm-hmm. I think because of the labor market right now, I think it's going to continue to grow. I think fractional is the future of work, especially again for leadership. And it doesn't take away from the leaders that already exist into those roles, but the work and what is transpiring in the workplace just happens at such a rapid pace. Companies are going to realize the need to have fractional leaders as a kind of a resource to always tap into as they have these major transformation or change initiatives. So I believe it's going to continue to grow. And where we want to really be able to focus, again, just to continue to expand our impact, is working even more closely with HR leaders, CHROs, and our human capital, execute on that human capital strategy, right? And again, really making a difference to the employee experience and to the workforce, because employees spend most of their time there. And so we want it to be a great experience for them, and we want to help remove those roadblocks. So I think focusing on the people is going to be key for us, and the environment, again, working more with chief sustainability officers to accelerate their impact in the work that they need to do. I still, my background is ops and IT, so I still work a lot with CIOs, but I do think that, again, those cross-functional change initiatives that can help move the ship, move the impact in faster, is where fractional leaders are going to be used.
I agree. I think that organizations, the pressure to deliver at speed is going to only increase. And I believe that speed is going to be continuously realized through cross-sectional interdepartmental work. And so that is not going to be delivered with the talent that is traditionally hired, because talent is not traditionally brought in to work like that, irrespective of what is sold. We're typically hired to work in a lane and work and operate in that lane. So organizations are going to continue to need fractional support, that type of support, who can look and see across the aisle and connect those dots and work almost like in a lattice style to deliver. And so 100% there. And I think paired with that, if I may throw my prediction in the ring, it's that organizations are going to continue to be data driven and reliant, because there's going to be an ongoing pressure to prove return on investment and the value of even taking a risk or taking a particular action. So partners and vendors and organizations that can be predictive, that can look at data and say, hey, here's where this may go. Here's the risk of this. Here's the potential return of that. That's going to be increasingly valuable. I'm
glad you mentioned that just real quick because we didn't even talk about predictive data. No. But that I've seen some of the work you've done on that, and that's going to be key too. Yeah.
You know, Shanta, this has been excellent. I'm so glad we were able to sit down for this webinar. And I'm confident this is going to be one of several more that we do next year, in 2025. But and I'm going after that. Cause Shanta, you my people for real. I'm a Shanta fan. All right, I'm gonna be transparent. I'm a Shanta fan. Where can people learn more about Leaders Edge Consulting? We're going to put everything in the show notes, and we are going to have an interest form that for Living Corporate and Leaders Edge that we work together and share. But where can people learn more about Leaders Edge Consulting?
So our website, of course, which will be in the info pack, but also follow me on LinkedIn. I try to stay really connected to people there. And I literally, when people connect with me, we follow up, we have coffee, chats, virtual or in person. So I believe in, again, having that really human touch. So Leaders Edge, consult.com, LinkedIn is probably the two great ways to connect.
That's dope. And absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna have information in that deck, in that pack that we send, and you're gonna see the links in the show notes. And you should be seeing across the socials wrapped around all of this. But for Living Corporate, just Google Living Corporate. You know what I'm saying? Like, just type in Living Corporate whatever your browser show, and then click something. Okay. But if you want to go to the domain, it's living-corporate.com. We have livingcorporate.co, livingcorporate.org, livingcorporate.net. We have all the Living Corporate stuff, livingcorporate.com. Believe it or not, Shanta, livingcorporate.com is owned by an Australian corporate furniture company, but then they went down. But then they knew I wanted to buy the domain, so they just holding it. It's crazy. I know.
That's crazy.
So, and yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very responsible on LinkedIn. I'm trying to do better with in-person link-ups and meets, but definitely happy to connect, network, and shoot. This has been fun, y'all. Until next time, this has been Zach Noble Living Corporate and Shanta Eaden with Leaders Edge Consulting. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.
Appreciate you.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.